Am I the idiot for calling the police on my sister after she crossed a serious line? I 34 female, single mother of 3 girls. 13, 8, 2. Let my sister 31, female move in with me 2 months ago, and she stole from me. I am shaking as I type this up. Let call my sister Sara. Sara lost her job about 4 months, got kicked out of her apartment about 2 months ago, and didn't have anywhere to go. Being her big sister, I offered her a place to stay while she figured things out. Being a single mother with no one to turn to, sometimes I felt sorry for her, so I figured I could help her out in this rough patch. I even started helping with daycare fees for her son, who's 3, because I know how tough it can be to make ends meet. Things started out okay, but I started noticing small red flags. First, Sara's boyfriend, who I'd only met 3 times, began coming over almost every day while I was at work. I didn't love it, but I thought they both needed support, so I let it slide. I did let Sara know that I didn't want him coming to my house every day, and he stopped coming for a while. Then one day he just pops back up. It wasn't long before I noticed other strange things happening. At first I thought I was tripping. Like little stuff would be moved in my bedroom, or my bathroom would have stuff missing. At first I thought it was my daughters, but the stuff that was touched or missing they either don't use, or have their own. So without telling anyone, I put a camera in my room. I saw Sara going into my room when I was at work. I confronted her and told her, without letting her know about the camera in my room. I told her I knew she was going in my room, and if she does it again she was out. She half-assed apologized and we moved on. Well, yesterday when I get home, I noticed my closet door slightly opened. I knew something was off because I never leave my closet door open. As I was looking through my closet, I noticed one of my handbags was missing. I had been saving up about $2,500 for Christmas gifts for my kids in the handbag. It wasn't in an obvious spot either. You would literally have to dig under about 7 other handbags to get to that one. My heart was in my ass because 1, my money is missing, and 2, that is the money for my kids' Christmas, and 3, my sister was nowhere to be found. I knew right then and there Sara took it. I immediately called Sara, but she wouldn't answer. I checked security cameras in my room and saw Sara thieving ass in my room going through my closet. About 5 minutes later her boyfriend, let's call him Ryan, came in my room too. They had to have picked the lock because I made sure my room was locked before I went to work this morning. They spent 45 minutes in my room going through all my stuff, trying to put it back like it was. I was devastated. I let her move in with my rent-free and bill-free, and this is how she repays me. About 2 hours after I got home, Sara and Ryan shows back up. I confronted her immediately. At first she flat out lied and denied it, claiming I was mistaken or that I had misplaced the money. But I didn't back down. I told her I had the entire thing on camera, everything, including her and her boyfriend going through my things. She was caught red-handed. I told her she had until the end of the day to return the money, or I'd be pressing charges. She started freaking out, saying I was being unreasonable. I really wanted to put my hands on her, but I have too much to lose. She even tried to drag our dad and her mom into the situation, calling them to intervene on her behalf. But I wasn't having it. I told them both to stay out of it, that I was handling it my way, and they had no right to defend her when she was clearly in the wrong. And if they want to defend her, they can give me the $2,500 back. That shut them right on up. I also told they didn't have the right to say anything to me about this because they were willing to tell her and their grandchild sleep outside because they're not ready to have a toddler around they right now. By 8 p.m., she still hadn't given me the money back, and I had no choice but to call the police. I filed a report and gave them the footage. By the time the police got there, Sara and her Ryan had jumped in his car and left. They're both on the run now, and no one knows where they are. I'm sure she's trying to hide, but I have no idea if they'll even come back or if I'll get my money back. I'm still in shock. I've always tried to help her, and this is how she repays me. I can never trust her again. And right now I don't even know if I want her in my life anymore. It's one thing to make mistakes, but to steal from family when I've been helping you, it feels like a betrayal on a whole new level. So here I am, dealing with the aftermath, and I'm wondering, should I have handled this differently? I really wanted to hurt her, and the only reason I didn't was because of my daughters. Even though they are not with me, I still don't want to miss up there in my future. I got a call from one of my cousins and she was telling me that she was on me side. But she also told me that my dad and his wife called her mom trying to talk junk about me and my auntie shut us down. She apparently told my dad that him and his wife created the Mr. My Sister is because they never said no and gave her any and everything she wanted. I love my aunt for sticking up for me. I'm just trying to process everything. And honestly, I'm struggling to figure out what comes next. So Reddit AITA for calling the police on my sister. Comments. Comment 1. So Sara and the boyfriend are definitely into hard drugs, right? You don't spend $2,500 on restaurants and weed in what appears to be 2 days between the posts. Trying to steal from your job, getting evicted for threatening the landlord, trying to steal a gun from your sister, taking her money instead, ditching your kid, going on the run, and blowing $2,500 doesn't sound like a loser stoner. That sounds like meth or cocaine. Comment 2. Funny this story came up because earlier tonight my sister was telling me how angry her pets are at her. That it's winter outside. They keep demanding to be let out different doors, trying to find the one that leads to summer. And they'd absolutely turn her into the cops if they could. Update. Hey everyone. First off, I would like to thank everyone for the kind words and support. It really means a lot to me. So, again, thank you. To the people saying it is my fault, you can go to hell. That just shows me that you will steal from anyone at any time, if given the opportunity. So for the update. Bear with me. I worked my overnight last night, and barely got any rest today because of this situation. So when I got off work this morning, I really didn't feel like going upstairs to my room, so I laid on the couch. Around 10:30 I heard someone at my front door. When I opened the door, it was sister looking stupid. When I realized who it was, I punched her right in the face. She tried to run, but I grabbed her and pulled her inside of my house. She was alone. I asked her where was my nephew, and she tells me that he is with her childhood best friend. I will call her Alex. I didn't believe her, so I made her call Alex so I could see, and he was. Thank God he is with Alex. Because Alex is an angel. I asked my sister where my money was, and she said gone. I said I know that, but where did it go? This idiot looked me in my eyes and told me that she and Ryan spend the money DoorDash, going out to eat, and Mary Jane. I just stood there and looked at her. She didn't say anything, and I know she thought I was going to punch her again because every time I moved she would flinch. After what felt like hours of me staring at her, I called her a dumb bitch. I told her she needed to explain herself. What pisses me off is she wasn't even looking for the money. She was looking for my handgun. She told me that Ryan had convinced her to go to her old job and get revenge for firing her. I told her she was a dummy for going along with that play. I then asked her why did she get fired, because she told us her job had to lay off people due to the drop in business. It is a small business, and a local family-owned grocery store. Well, come to find out, her and 4 other employees decided that they didn't want the 15% employee discount they were getting and the $19.50 they were getting paid. They wanted free merchandise and free money for the registers. My jaw hit the floor. Her old employer told her if she paid back the money she took, he would press charges. I asked her how much she took, and it was about $690. But I think it was way more. Ryan didn't like the idea of her getting ripped off and came up with his plan. She knew I had a handgun. She didn't know that I'd take it with me everywhere I go because I have my concealed carry license. While she is taking to me, I'm recording the whole time. She then tells me the reason she got kicked out was because she told her landlord that if he didn't let Ryan stay with her and not be on the lease, she was going to get a bunch of people to bet him up. The landlord filed a police report and had her evicted 10 days after. But what really pissed me off is she told me the whole time she was on the run she never once checked up on her son. She said Ryan doesn't want him around, so that is why she took him to Alex. At that point I snapped. Everything from her stealing from me to her abandoning her son just came out. I have never yelled and cursed at no one like that before. I really let her have it. She started crying, but I couldn't care less. She tried to talk, but I told her to shut the fuck up because I was done with her shit. I told her she was a piss poor excuse for a human being, and a mother. I told her that she should be ashamed of herself for what she did to me, and how she is treating her son. I told her that I was going to help Alex get custody of her son because she didn't deserve him. She tried to talk, but I wasn't done. I also told her that she is going to jail and Ryan is too. She really started crying, but again I couldn't care less. I was yelling so loud I think the neighbors heard me, and called the police, which I was going to do anyway. So thank you to my neighbors. When I opened the door and seen it was the police, they asked me was everybody and everything okay because they could hear me from the street, and my neighbors were concerned. I told them no and explained everything that was going on. Sara was just sitting there like a deer in headlights, and trying to play victim. She told the police that I gave her the money. I wanted to jump on her right then and there. I told the police that the previous officers had the footage of her and Ryan going through my stuff. One of the officers ran her name and seen she had a warrant for her arrest and put her in handcuffs. They took Sara outside and was searching her. The police pulled some money out her pocket, and she told them to give it to me. This stupid bitch wanted them to give me $24.76. Yes, I counted it. I told them to keep it because she is going to need it. The police asked her how did she get there, and Sara said Ryan dropped her off. They asked her where was Ryan, and she said around the corner waiting on her. When one of the officers went to check, the dummy was still there sleeping. So he went to jail also. I called my dad and told him what was going on, and to my surprise he must have had a change of heart. He told me after my aunt read him the riot act he took everything in and realized we were right. He told me that she is going to have to pay for what she did. I also told him about my nephew. But he knew that he was with Alex and glad he was with her. I told him about helping Alex get custody of my nephew, and he told me to do what I had to do. The reason I want Alex to get custody is because she is great with my nephew. She loves him, and he loves her. He also is happier when he is with Alex. Even when she would visit Sara, my nephew wouldn't leave Alex's side. She also, if anything ever happened to my sister, she would take my nephew with no problems. Sara's mom is pissed at me because I will not drop the charges, and I gave the police the recording of her telling me the plan she really had, because it added more charges. I told her if she was good mother and raised Sara right, we would be going through this. She called me a bitch and hung up. I blocked her. She can deal with Sara and pay for lawyers. I will make sure I'm at every court date for Sara and Ryan if possible. I don't want neither one of them getting out anytime soon. Well, this is my update so far. And if anything else happens, I will let y'all know. Thank y'all again for the support and kind words. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for refusing to give my half-sister any of our grandmother's jewelry after being excluded for years? I, 24 female, am the product of an affair. My father was married when I was born, and his marriage fell apart because of it. My dad eventually divorced his now ex-wife. And his 3 kids, my half-siblings 32 female, 30 male 28 male, have always resented me for it. I understand what happened between our parents was messy and destroyed their happy family. But I was just a baby, and they've punished me for it my whole life. Growing up, they excluded me from everything. They didn't want me around, made cruel comments when I was, and acted like I didn't exist unless they were making me feel unwelcome. The worst part was when my mom passed away when I was 19. While I was mourning my mother's death, they openly celebrated. I found out they made jokes about how the trash took itself out, and threw a party less than a month after the funeral to celebrate it. That broke me, and I've been no contact with them for years over it. Our shared grandmother wasn't much better. She wasn't outright cruel to me, but she clearly favored my half-siblings. They spent vacations and summers with her, while she barely acknowledged me. She also made it known on more than one occasion that she wanted her jewelry to go to my oldest half-sister, 32 female, when she passed away as the oldest female grandchild in the family. Since she never had any daughters of her own, it was well established to everyone that knew her that this was her intention. However, she didn't leave a notarized will, so legally, her estate went to my dad, as her only child. To my shock, my dad gave the entire jewelry collection to me. He said he regretted how I'd been treated by the family and wanted me to have something meaningful. It was the first time he had ever done something to truly acknowledge me, and I was floored. Now, my half-siblings are furious, especially my oldest half-sister. She's demanding I give her some of the jewelry, claiming that since she was closer to our grandmother, and she had always intended for her sister to have it, it's unfair that I kept it all. She even said I wasn't really part of the family and has been calling me selfish and accusing me of stealing what was rightfully hers. I refused. I told her that after years of being treated like garbage, I'm not giving up the one thing my dad has ever done to acknowledge me. She accused me of being bitter and petty, saying I'm using this to punish them for things that happened years ago. I'll admit, part of me feels like I'm finally getting some compensation for their horrible treatment of me. But the other part of me wonders if I'm being petty or cruel by keeping it all when the others were so much closer to her. So AITA. Edited to add due to some people making assumptions about my mother. She did not know my father was married originally. They married after my father's divorce, because at the time my mother could not support the 2 of us by herself, and being an unmarried pregnant woman was a major cultural taboo for her. My father spent a majority of his time home, when he actually bothered to come at all, trying to make it up to his children, my half-siblings, when it was his time with custody. As far as I am aware, my mother never treated them poorly. They tended to ignore her, and she did the same when they were around our house. Comments. Comment 1. Oh, Ope's father really is trash. He gave her the jewelry but effectively threw a goddamn grenade into an already tenuous at best situation. He only thought about alleviating his guilt and put no forethought into how OP would end up in the stepsister's crosshairs. Because the jewelry that was promised to her was given to her father's affair baby. That man really is a selfish, spineless coward, through and through. Comment 2. I feel bad for the OP, but at the same time the father is a POS. If the half-sister was truly as close to the grandmother as she says, there were probably other ways for the father to make amends, without giving away all the sentimental value jewelry. OP is a victim, but the father just cannot stop hurting people. Eat it. I said this in some comments, but I also just want to note how messed up it is that the one time OP thinks their father acknowledged them, and what they went through. It's with the jewelry of someone else who hated them. OP literally had to wait for someone to die to get recognition, because the father was incapable, or unwilling to do it with his own power. He didn't acknowledge OP. He basically outsourced that task to a dead person. Update. First, I want to thank everyone for the responses, advice and support. I never expected this post to gain so much attention, and it's been overwhelming but also incredibly validating to know that so many of you understand where I'm coming from. After reading through the comments and reflecting on everything, I decided to stand firm in my decision to keep the jewelry. This is the first meaningful gesture my dad has ever made towards me, and I'm not going to give it up, especially to people who have done nothing but make me feel like an outsider my entire life. For greater clarification, the jewelry also represents a greater apology to me. No one had ever apologized for the treatment I faced throughout my entire childhood, even when I chose to cut them off. Not for the constant name-calling. Not for the actual slurs they would regularly call me. Not for the unwanted comments of my weight and how I was a pig just like my mother. None of it. Before, this is the only apology I've ever received, even tangentially relating to my childhood. And yes, I am very aware of how bitter I sound here. That said, I didn't want to completely close the door on reconciliation, so I reached out to my dad to discuss everything. I asked him why he gave the jewelry to me, and what he thought about the backlash from my half-siblings. He admitted that he regrets how he handled things during my childhood, and feels that he prioritized his other kids at my expense. Giving me the jewelry was his way of trying to make amends, even if it's late. I also told him about how my half-siblings were treating me now, and the things they had said about my mom in the past. He was upset and said he would speak to them about their current behavior. Though that wasn't my intention, and I doubt it will make much of a difference. As for my half-siblings, the situation has only escalated. My oldest half-sister, 32F, sent a long message accusing me of being vindictive and selfish, still claiming that I'm taking the jewelry out of spite, which I suppose is partially true. She tried to guilt-trip me again by bringing up how close she was to our grandmother, and how much she wanted these specific pieces to remember her by. I didn't respond, but I've saved the messages in case things get worse. Unexpectedly, my middle half-brother, 30M, reached out privately. He admitted he was wrong for how he treated me in the past, and apologized. He said he doesn't care about the jewelry and just wants to move forward. I told him I appreciated his apology, but I need time to process everything before I can even consider having a relationship with him. I'm still no contact with my oldest half-sister and youngest half-brother. At this point, I don't see that changing. To those wondering about the jewelry itself, I've decided to have some of the pieces appraised and restored. I plan to wear a few of them on special occasions, and keep the rest stored safely. They hold sentimental value to me now, not because of my grandmother, but because they represent a step toward my dad finally seeing me as part of the family, even if it's imperfect and overdue. That said, after speaking with my middle half-brother, I've come to understand most of my half-sister's anger and attacks come from a place of grief. As such, I plan to give her my grandmother's favorite pair of earrings. She wore them constantly, and while I doubt my sister will have any gratitude towards me, I'm sure she'll appreciate the gesture nonetheless. Thanks again for all the support. This whole situation has been messy, but I feel more confident in my decision now. If anything else significant happens, I'll update again. ETA. The comments have made me realize that I've probably been giving my sister too much benefit of the doubt. While I do want to return the earrings to her, I think I'll offer to let her buy them back instead. Though for the people concerned that letting her take them may incite her to sue me for the rest, I'll see how soon I can speak to a lawyer for a consultation.